Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to everybody. Just making sure everybody's settled in before we start the session today. I'm going to wait just one more minute and then I'll start with the presentation. First of all, thank you to all of the guests and thank you to all of the clients that I see on the list that has joined us for the session today. I'm very excited to share with you how this tool can benefit your business in the space that you're in. Certainly not an opportunity for Kwelanga to sell their services to you, but just to show you that we do try and add some value along the way to everybody that works. I also want to extend my thanks to my team. And then I'd like to thank Lisa, our head of QA and our regional head in Durban. She is the brainchild behind the evaluation tool. She has meticulously crafted all of the questions that we work through in the evaluation tool. And between her and myself, with over 50 years experience in L&D, more than 25 years experience in Kwelanga, I do hope that we've put together a product that can give you guys the best value in dealing with personal development plans in the workplace itself. I'd like to start the session with a video that Steph has prepared for us for on this product. At the end of the day, it would help to have a visual that will also give us more information on how the product works. Let's dive into the purpose of the session today, and this is to outline the benefits that the TNA tool provides to our clients. When we started developing this product, our main focus was to try and look at certain pain points that were evident in the environment of doing personal development plans and come up with a solution that would offer clients a hassle-free, simple approach to getting data-driven results on personal development plans. We've obviously taken our experience in our industry around soft skills training, leadership communication skills, and a couple of others, and we've modeled a tool that doesn't just look at the topic of a course and says this is what you are needing to do, which is often part of the conversation when a PDP meeting is being held, where people very subjectively select programs based on what they think their skill shortages are. So we've put together a concept that takes requirements within a job spec and then put that forward in the sense that we can answer questions related to where our competency sits rather than our anticipated training need is. The benefit at the end of the day is that we are able to get detailed information from the learners that complete the evaluation. There's critical gaps that are identified. And at the end of the day, it's easier then for you to take that result and put together a training plan for the individuals that you work with. Crucially in this thing, in the approach to this program is that we are also focusing on saving us a tremendous amount of time. If you consider having to do these meetings with your staff on a one-on-one basis, you could have potentially 20 people in a team reporting to a team leader, practically maybe an hour per person. That's 20 hours of time allocation. And very often the results of those conversations are also very subjective based on expectations the individuals might have, but might not be driven by business need or the other way around. So through using the TNA tool, you can get a complete individual evaluation with a report within 20 minutes. And every individual can complete this report in their own time. You don't need to sit with them to do it. What you can then do is at the end of the evaluation, when that report is shared with the person, they can then come to their team leader with a detailed result on their competency assessment. And with that, they can have an in-depth conversation around where the skills development is required. So that's the first big benefit that we have around the tool itself, is that it saves you a tremendous amount of time. And the nice thing about it is because it's data-driven around individual feedback, you also find that there would be a more in-depth response to the identification of training needs. Crucially, though, I would like to also indicate here, because there were concerns around people's buy-in into doing these evaluations, that sometimes they're not too keen to do it because they might be worried that they'll be assessed from a performance perspective. This tool is not designed to elicit anxiousness within staff. It's not there to be used as a beating stick for performance-related issues. It is a positive tool that allows individuals the opportunity to assess where their developmental areas are, and allows us to then put a plan together for them to get to the results that they need. And with the help of business and the investment they make around their staff development, we find that we do have an engagement that improves productivity, it boosts morale, and then the staff environment also improves with the individuals. The information I'm sharing with you at the moment is all on our website. You can access it via kwelangatraining.co.za under unique solutions, and then you get to the training needs analysis page, which gives you all of this information. We will also share this with you afterwards. Now, for the purpose of today's presentation, let's get into the demo itself. I'd like you to take you through a couple of key aspects of the app before I take you through the demo of the evaluation, just to give you a sense of understanding of what this works with as well. We will address the questions as they come in, and I'll try and get to all of those as we go along as well. First off, the app was designed to run off a website. It obviously is a very simplistic design, and to also ensure that we don't use a lot of data. So when I say it was designed to run off a website, it also allows for mobile device access to the site. So if you have staff in a production environment or staff that might not have access to a workstation that they can access the app, they can use their mobile device on any Wi-Fi connectivity. They can also utilize their own data for it. It's a very lean site design, very few graphics, very few interaction that is required that takes up a lot of mobile data. So we can encourage the staff to do this evaluation without too much hassle. We've also ensured that any data that is shared with the individual is emailed to them, not sent to the device, so that it doesn't require data downloads on the device itself as well. So we're obviously very mindful of our climate in South Africa around access to information via computers and maybe the limitations to technology there. What you will find when you get into the main page of the app is very simply, you have a login option on the top right-hand side of your screen, and you have the option to get started if you're new to the app and you haven't worked with it before. We have recently instigated a change to the way the app runs. And the first part of that would be, if you've not completed your profile on the app before, when you choose to start your evaluation, it will ask you to register. We utilize this information to match your report to your profile. So if you are working through the evaluation and you've registered, we are able to track back where your responses have come. And if you end up not completing the evaluation, you want to come back later, you can simply log in and access your report again from there. So the first step would be to go and create a profile if you've not registered before. This profile links to your email address. So whichever email address you use will be the one that will also receive the report. It's crucial to understand and accept here that the report is sent to the individual. We want the individual to have the power in deciding who gets access to the data. We typically don't send it on to the team leader without the consent of the individual, but normally we would recommend that that engagement happens with the individual and the team leader after the fact. For the sake of today's presentation, I've already created a profile just to save some time. So I'm just going to log in on my profile to give you an idea of what the login screen will look like and the profile management. Once you're logged in or once you've created your profile, it will take you to a page that will either show you any previous evaluations that you completed or not completed, or you would have the option to start your needs analysis from the start if you haven't started one before. Simply by clicking Get Started, it will then load up a screen that allows you to select which segments you would like to be evaluated on. Now, we have, over time, built a library of evaluation tools, and we will also be adding to these over time. So it is important that the individual knows what evaluation they're coming to complete. The first 5 categories or segments that we have are typically job competencies that would require a certain level of understanding for individuals. So if you have, for example, a team leader that's new to their role, we would typically want to ensure that they do managing others as one of the segments that they complete. We could potentially be looking at someone working within a team, and we would like to look at their collaboration skills, and maybe even someone that needs to look at being more organized in the workspace that they're working with. So they could then pick the segments that they'd like to be evaluated on. Typically, if you want to do the full evaluation, you could pick the first 5 segments and do the full evaluation, or you could selectively do the evaluations based on criteria that you have. The nice thing about the tool is you can also come back after the fact and do a secondary evaluation if you feel that you wanted to do evaluations on other categories as well. It is driven mostly then in this instance around the need analysis that needs to be done. The last 2 categories or segments on the list are typically also 2 segments that are done independently. So I wouldn't recommend that learners do these with any of the other segments. And specifically for this, these 2 were developed to ring fence a competency assessment around the first line management development program that Kwelanga has, and the second one around the graduate development program. These are 2 very popular topics that we are currently addressing in our environment that we're operating in. And we could suggest, if you are considering doing a first line management program, that you get your candidates to complete that evaluation. And if you're planning on doing a graduate program, we can do the graduate development evaluation for them. For the sake of today, though, I'm just going to select a couple of random segments just to show you what the evaluation looks like. I have already completed one to save us time, but typically what will then happen is once the learner has selected the segments that they want to complete, they simply click on Start Evaluation. This will then load the page on a mobile device. Each segment will be loaded on its own, and you will progress through the evaluation as you complete it. What we have done here is we've given them a reminder around what the purpose of the evaluation is. It's not a performance evaluation tool. It's not something your manager is going to use to rate you for your competency. It's a self-evaluation. Honest answers are required, and that we need them to answer to the most accurate reflection of what they have. Again, we try to dissipate the concern we might have with an individual of completing this evaluation and the blowback that might come from that. We then standardize the responses in a Likert scale, where selection is made based on your perceived competency in a certain space. And you will see that we've been very particular in asking questions around a competency, not necessarily a course or a program. So we also don't want people to try and answer based on the association of a course. What will then happen is, as they go through the questions and each segment is completed, at the end of the evaluation, a report is drawn. I'm just going to go through this for the sake of just showing you how the screen loads. When you finish, the minute you finish that evaluation is then emailed to the registered email account that you had loaded on your profile previously. For the sake of the demo today, I have prepared a evaluation And what you'll see is, based on the answers that were given, I would get a score that will match the responses that are provided. The score interpretation is shared in the sense of where potentially opportunities exist for training development. We typically say if your competency level is higher than 80, generally you're well defined in that area of competency, but anything below that, we would typically make recommendations of what training could be required to be done. Again, these are recommendations, they're not cast in stone. The second part of the report then also makes it easy for you to identify areas of development through linking it to a specific program. Now, obviously, at the end of the day, because this is a tool Kwelanga developed for free to access to our clients, we do typically try and link it back to our offering that we can provide service to our clients. Obviously, the requirement isn't there to use us, but we would like that to have the benefit of also partnering with you for that itself. You will see if your score is beyond 80%, recommendations for courses are not identified because the competency level is high enough. But where there are areas of competency requirements, we do put forward recommendations. There's an option to book for those individuals who want to train for themselves. There's an option to contact us, and you can also download the information related to that topic that was suggested to you. So there will be a link to a page where more information is available. Okay, so with that, just to take you back one step again, once you've logged into the platform, it shows you a history of evaluations that you have completed, or if you've not completed them. We typically look here at incompleted evaluations, would be possibly if the learner couldn't finish the process that they've started. They can come back, log in again, and access the evaluation that they started, and they can then come and complete it and go through the process from there. You can also, if you need to, request a reprint or a reissue of your evaluation. So if you go back into the evaluation, you can click on Generate Your PDF, and that will resend the report to you on PDF via email that you work with. And that is pretty much the detail around the demo of the product itself. I'm happy to take some questions, and Steph, maybe you can just unmute yourself here for me and give me some sort of guidelines around what questions have popped up, and then maybe we can answer them from there.
Hi, Daniel. Yes, we've had a few questions come through. So the first of which, Lydia would like to know, does the tool consolidate all needs?
When you say all needs, maybe Lydia, if you can, Steph, if you can just unmute Lydia, so you can just expand for me on what she means by all needs.
Just 1 second.
Thank you, Steph, and good morning, Daniel and everybody.
Hi, Lydia.
What I want to understand is, let's say you are doing the needs on a group of people in the workforce, and they have all done this. Will I then be able to get a consolidation of what the larger needs of that group is? Or does it only work up to the individual's report being sent to them? There's no report that maybe a lead of training or people development or talent or whatever can see where our biggest need is.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you for that. Yes, we can address it to a certain extent. Obviously, the main purpose of the tool is to generate a individualized, micro assessed individual report that we work with. But what we have built into the app, and I'm just going to show you a sample of what the report looks like, is we do have a feature that you can set up a super user account, and that's typically if you have a department head that wants to have results from their team. We can then draw that data by linking the users to the super user account, and we get a summary of the results per category. And you can then pick up a thread where there might be a low competency level in a certain space based on the individual's responses that you work with. So we can address that team need within this report that we work with as well. For the sake of simplicity today, I didn't cover the super user aspect in the presentation, But Lydia, I am engaging you offline anyway, so I will certainly sit with you and talk you through how we can set up that activation for your team. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you, Daniel.
Perfect. Happy to take on any other questions that we might have had.
Yeah, we've also had a question come through from Bridget, and she'd like to know, can the competencies or questions be customized to the organization's environment, for example, project management?
Yeah. So 2 comments here, Bridget, that might expand more than what you're asking, but maybe just to share what our line of thinking is. We are exploring the options of creating competency-based evaluations based on job profiles, where we want to put together generic profiles that can be addressed. So rather than just looking at a core competency, we can look at that. And that is in development. Obviously, we are happy to take on requests if there's a pressing need for specific job profiles that are needed within an environment or that we're already servicing. The second part to that question, Bridget, we do have a white label solution where you can partner with us and set up your own version of this needs analysis for internal use. And this can be done for anything internally around product training, evaluating, understanding of processes, anything like that. Obviously, we need to partner with the developer team to get that set up, but we certainly can have a conversation around that if you have interest for that. My team and myself remain available to anyone that might have questions related to this if you would like to have a conversation offline. But thank you for your time today. If anyone has any questions, we'll stay online for a few more minutes. Those of you who have gotten what you want, thank you for your time, and we wish you a good day for the rest of the day.
Daniel, we've just had another question come through from Nicole. She just wants to understand if the needs analysis will be used in tandem with the job description.
No problem. Nicole, yeah, I think the key is obviously you're not going to just tell your staff to come and do the evaluation and send you the results. Part of the conversation is to say, what areas of competency do we want to measure with the individual? And then based on that, we will link the segments that they evaluate themselves on. And then obviously the conversation comes back to what their job profile requirements are, where the gaps have been identified, and what those courses potentially could be to improve those gaps that they work with. That's with the current segments as they are. We haven't got the tool available yet for job-specific roles, but we will get to that during the course of this year as well. We are happy to come to your office and have this conversation with you, or we can prepare you for an internal activation. What we have done previously for a few of our clients with activations is we've drafted an email that they can send to their colleagues to explain to them what the purpose of the evaluation is with a couple of basic steps to follow. And then we can come back and sit with you and unpack the results of those evaluations with you on an individual level. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We hope to chat to you soon.